It's happening again. The war that started with trade may end with tanks. In 2018, Donald Trump's tariffs hit China with $360 billion worth of duties. Beijing retaliated with $110 billion. Both nations lost over $500 billion in trade value within 18 months. But in 2025, Trump's back. And his new tariff list isn't about steel or toys. It's about semiconductors, electric vehicles, AI chips, and rare earth metals. The weapons of the next century. This isn't just another trade war. It's an economic prelude to global conflict. Let's rewind. Between 2018 and 2020, tariffs increased US manufacturing costs by 5%, hurt corporate profits, and cost China over 1.5 million export jobs. Yet, Trump's base loved it. Because for the first time, America looked like it was standing up to Beijing's currency manipulation, IP theft, and dumping practices. Biden's years softened that stance. But Trump 2.0? His promised a 60% blanket tariff on all Chinese goods, and 100% on EVs and solar panels. That's not trade policy, that's economic containment. But this is just the start. The real trigger won't be tariffs. It'll be Taiwan. The US just approved $8 billion in arms sales with Taiwan, F-16s, Harpoon missiles, cyber defense grids. China views that as an act of war. Xi Jinping has openly declared, "We will not pass the Taiwan issue to the next generation." If China's economy weakens and unemployment surges, invading Taiwan becomes not a choice, but a distraction for survival. Here's how a war will unfold. Large blue circle US and allies, Japan, South Korea, Australia, the UK, and India, all tied by trade and military pacts. Large red circle China's bloc, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Pakistan, linked through energy, defense, and sanctions evasion. Day 1, China launches a blockade of Taiwan's ports under the name security exercises. Day 3, the US sends its 7th Fleet into the Taiwan Strait. Day 5, cyber attacks hit US banks and power grids. Within a week, shipping through the South China Sea, worth $3.5 trillion a year, freezes. Global trade collapses. Stock markets wipe out $10 trillion in value in days. The war isn't even officially declared yet. China cuts off exports of rare earths, which make up 80% of US tech manufacturing. The US retaliates by freezing $1 trillion in Chinese assets and delisting Chinese firms from the NYSE. Inflation in the US surges. Gas prices hit $10 a gallon. But in China, factories shut down, unemployment skyrockets, and the yuan collapses below 8.0 per dollar. The world enters a synchronized depression, worse than 2008. This is still monetary, but it won't take much time before it gets converted into a full-scale war. Who has skin in this game, and who will fight? Let's look at the war chest. United States. Defense budget, nearly $997 billion, larger than the next 10 countries combined. Over 800 military bases in 70-plus nations. China. Official defense budget, $248 billion, but analysts estimate the real figure could top $350 billion once off-book spending is included. The PLA Navy now has over 370 ships, the largest fleet on Earth. Taiwan. Defense spending set to hit $31 billion in 2026, more than 3% of its GDP, focused on coastal missiles, drones, and asymmetric warfare. And here's the key. The US spends to project power. China spends to deny it. When Trump reimposes tariffs, he's not just isolating China economically, he's rebuilding the Western alliance militarily. The US-led coalition. Japan just passed a record $56 billion defense budget in 2025. Upgrading missiles capable of striking deep into China. Hosting US Marines in Okinawa and new rapid response units on its southern islands. Australia signed AUKUS, building nuclear-powered submarines and intelligence sharing with the US and UK. South Korea, tripling production of long-range missiles, hosting THAAD systems, and aligning closer with US Indo-Pacific Command. India, quiet but crucial. Member of the Quad, US, Japan, Australia, India. Building naval bases in the Andaman Sea to monitor Chinese movements in the Indian Ocean. NATO allies, the UK, France, and Germany have pledged to send carrier strike groups to the Indo-Pacific by 2027 if a Taiwan conflict erupts. Together, this alliance controls 70% of the world's military spending and 80% of global sea power. But Beijing is not alone. In the shadows, a counterbloc is forming, a mix of ideology, necessity, and anti-Western sentiment. The China-led Axis. Russia, after Ukraine, Moscow sees China as its last lifeline. Providing weapons, oil, and military coordination in the Arctic and Pacific. Joint naval drills already happening in the Sea of Japan. Iran supplies China with discounted oil, drones, and military technology. In return, China blocks Western sanctions at the UN. North Korea provides cyber units, artillery shells, and chaos. It doesn't need to win, just to distract US forces. Pakistan, partner in China's CPEC project and recipient of Chinese military hardware. Its ports, like Gwadar, could be used for resupply in the Indian Ocean. African and Middle Eastern nations, many indebted to Beijing through the Belt and Road Initiative, offering diplomatic neutrality or quiet logistical support. Together, they form an economic military web that challenges US global dominance, not through open war, but through attrition and endurance. The flashpoint remains Taiwan, home to TSMC, the world's largest semiconductor maker, producing over 60% of advanced chips. Trump's increased arms deals, F-16s, Patriot missiles, cyber defense grids, are pushing Beijing's patience to the limit. If China invades, the dominoes fall instantly. Day 1, Chinese missiles hit Taiwanese radar stations. Day 2, the US 7th Fleet moves in. Day 3, Japan activates Article 9 for the first time since World War II. Day 4, Russia mobilizes near Alaska and Eastern Europe. Day 5, global trade through the South China Sea, worth $3.5 trillion annually, halts. The world enters a crisis unseen in 80 years. Oil hits $200 a barrel, stock markets lose $10 trillion in value in a week, and cyber attacks cripple infrastructure from New York to Seoul. This won't just be fought with missiles, but money. The US freezes $1 trillion in Chinese assets and bans dollar transactions for Chinese banks. China dumps $800 billion in US treasuries, causing global interest rates to spike. Rare earth exports are halted, crippling Western tech production. The dollar weakens, gold and crypto explode. Economies collapse not from bombs, but from financial shockwaves. The aftermath: who wins, who falls. In every simulation run by Western think tanks, no side truly wins. China loses up to 17% of its GDP and faces decades of isolation. The US loses 5 to 7%, but its global financial system shakes. Taiwan loses everything, cities destroyed, industries erased. Europe faces an energy shock worse than 2022. Global GDP falls 10%, wiping out a decade of progress. The new world that rises after won't be led by one superpower, but by 5 regional powers balancing each other: the US, China, India, Russia, and the EU. The era of global dominance ends here.